I am notoriously known in the circle as the ugly and fierce woman, but with my doting parents around, the young ladies and gentlemen have no choice but to flatter me, until a resilient and fearless true heiress emerged in the circle. I had low blood sugar and asked my fiancé Charles to get me a piece of cake, but she publicly accused me, "Miss Jenny, you have hands and feet, what gives you the right to order others around? There are no slaves in the new era, let alone slave owners." I sprained my wrist and asked my younger brother to help me open a bottle of mineral water. She looked disdainful, a parasite who only relies on others. What a disgrace to modern women. Later, I gave her a taste of her own medicine. She had a fractured foot and was being supported by someone, so I made a sarcastic remark. "Oh, so even the resilient women of the new era need to rely on others." Little did I know, the protagonist wasn't upset, but my fiancé lost his temper. "Jenny, you're always being sarcastic every day. No wonder everyone in the circle finds you disgusting." The people around gasped in shock. "Damn, has Charles lost his mind? Isn't he afraid that Jenny will complain and Mr. Smith will scold him again?" I've said it before, these two are bound to break up sooner or later. Jenny is so unattractive and has such a bad temper. When they stand together, Charles looks like a kept man, honestly, compared to all that. I'm more curious whether Charles would feel nauseous kissing Jenny. Sneers and laughter echoed all around. My expression darkened inch by inch. Charles's expression was tense. He had blurted out those words without thinking, and now a hint of regret was beginning to show on his face. "You, Charles." Before he could explain, Crystal, the true heiress of the Smith family who had been switched at birth by a nanny and had only recently been recognized, spoke with emotion. "I thought in this circle, everyone just blindly follows trends, fawning over those good-for-nothing heirs who live off their parents. Now I realize you're different." Her face was full of emotion, her eyes tender and affectionate, with her sweet and innocent appearance. Charles's expression, which had just relaxed, tensed up again. He looked at me coldly, his tone commanding. "Jenny, apologize to Crystal." I was full of confusion and almost laughed in frustration. "Are you worthy?" Charles was taken aback for a moment. "What do you mean?" "It means, who do you think you are, daring to order me around? Who gave you the confidence?" My mouth is as if laced with poison. "Have I given you too much respect, making you think you're actually somebody, ugly and troublesome? If you really have nothing to do, why don't you go back to your hometown and shovel manure? The pig farm back home is probably still hiring." I attack indiscriminately. Charles's face turned a kaleidoscope of colors from anger. Looking absolutely stunning, he took a deep breath and blurted out his most honest thoughts. "Ugly, you should take a look in the mirror. Your face looks like a monkey's butt, and your temper is even fiercer than a monkey's. I've put up with you countless times since we were kids. Did you really think I have no temper?" Charles and I grew up together since childhood. He knows best what words can break my heart. I was born with a red birthmark on my face. It's on the right cheek. Irregular in shape, ugly and fierce looking. But if you ignore this red birthmark and just look at the other half of my face, I'm actually very beautiful. In fact, if this kind of congenital birthmark is treated with surgery at birth, its impact in adulthood can be negligible. Unfortunately, when I was born, my family was extremely poor and had no money, let alone the connections to find a doctor who could perform the surgery for my sake. My parents started working various jobs to earn money and sought opportunities to start a business. Because they had no time to take care of me, they sent me to the countryside to be cared for by my grandmother. I was 6 years old at that time. Just a few days after arriving in the village, I learned that Grandma was affectionately called Super Granny, because if even one cucumber was missing from the field, she would curse from one end of the village to the other. Her curses were filled with vulgar descriptions of various body parts that were hard to listen to. It infuriated the thief so much that he confessed on the spot and got into a heated argument with Grandma right then and there. Of course, my grandmother won in the end. Not only that, but the thief even compensated her with 50 yuan for emotional distress. Since then, my grandmother's heroic figure has been deeply imprinted in my mind. Even that nickname felt like a medal to me. I practiced diligently every day. When classmates once again mocked my face as a monkey's butt, I imitated my grandmother's way of spitting thick phlegm and spat a mouthful of saliva right in their faces. With hands on hips and mouth wide open, I started cursing. "You little punk, if you didn't speak, I'd have thought a beep had come to life. With that long face and thick neck, you must have been a beep in your past life. And your parents, how did they manage to raise such a useless piece of trash? Don't you feel ashamed just being alive? Let me tell you, your parents actually never wanted you in the first place. Hurry home and see for yourself. They're busy making a new kid right now. I picked up all these sharp insults from my grandma, even though I didn't fully understand what they meant. They always felt incredibly powerful, feeling immensely proud after successfully driving the person away with my words. I turned around like a victorious general, only to unexpectedly see my parents standing behind me with tears in their eyes. Mother cried her heart out, holding me tightly in her arms. I'm taking my daughter away. If she stays any longer, she'll be corrupted sooner or later. At that time, I didn't really understand why they were so heartbroken. Even though I didn't want to leave at all, I was still taken away by my parents. They have earned some money and are ready to treat the birthmark on my face, but I disagree, because that doctor said they would cut off the skin with the birthmark on my face and then forcibly stitch the two pieces of skin together. Just thinking about it hurts, so I lay on the ground, throwing a tantrum and refusing to agree no matter what. I even imitated my grandmother's calm and composed manner and said to them, "If someone refuses to play with me and insults me because of the birthmark on my face, that person isn't worthy of being my friend. My birthmark is a friendship detector. Anyway, I'm not going to the hospital. Since you're planning to do business, just use that money for it." This is what I overheard earlier. At the time, there was a great opportunity, but they didn't have much money. They had to choose between paying for my surgery or making an investment. I said that mainly because I was afraid of the pain and didn't want to have the surgery. But my parents seemed to misunderstand me. They hugged me and cried, sobbing as they said, "Jenny, you're so sensible. Mom and Dad will work hard to earn money and give you a good life." From then on, they worked like energized beasts of burden, toiling from dawn till dusk every day. Within just a few years, they had me living in a large villa, enjoying an ideal life where a chauffeur drove me to school and a top-tier chef prepared my meals. It was also during this year that I met Charles next door. He is the second child in the family, with an older sister and a younger brother. Stuck in the middle and with an introverted personality, he was practically invisible. He was disliked at home and bullied at school. My sense of justice kicked in, and I channeled my grandma's scolding style, spitting on half the class and making the other half cry and beg to go home. Since then, Charles and I have become good friends. When I saw him being bullied, I eagerly rushed over to protect him, and he would also step in and confront others when I was called a monkey. But my parents felt that he was sincere toward me and straightforwardly arranged our engagement. In doing so, he even gave up many benefits to the Smith family, turning Charles from the neglected second child into the family's cherished treasure. From the age of 12 to 22, I became a hot-tempered, unattractive, and fierce woman whom no one dared to provoke. He, on the other hand, grew more and more handsome, gradually becoming the Prince Charming in our social circle. Everyone praises him for his good temper and gentle nature. I feel quite proud. After all, a man is a woman's face. His praise reflects well on me. So, over these 10 years, I always believed our relationship was unbreakable. Who would have thought that he would also become the one to call me monkey? But I stared deeply at the handsome man before me, who was still stubbornly insisting that I apologize. Suddenly, I let out a very soft laugh. Under his puzzled gaze, I swiftly grabbed the nearby cake and smashed it squarely onto his face. "Charles, we're through," I roared, took a few steps forward, and grabbed his hair tightly. I slapped his face hard and kicked his legs. "Finally, you're telling the truth. Have you always thought my face looks like a monkey's butt? Have you been deceiving and using me all these years, treating me as a pawn?" I'm so furious that just the thought of such a possibility makes me want to tear his flesh with my teeth. So, I did it. I opened my mouth and bit down hard on his face. Ah! A piercing scream echoed through the banquet hall. The scene descended into chaos. Some were trying to break up the fight, while others were busy recording videos. I seized the opportunity and clawed fiercely at the person who had just spoken ill of me. In the end, we all ended up at the police station. More than 20 people at the scene were all squatting inside the police station. I was the fastest to be bailed out. My doting father held my reddened hand with a pained expression. "My precious daughter, does it hurt? Next time, I'll get you a pair of gloves, okay? That way, your hand won't hurt when you hit someone again." The police officer was speechless but had no authority to interfere in family matters. He could only cough twice as a reminder and said succinctly, "It's still better to educate children in a more civilized way." Dad selectively ignored the comment and continued speaking to me in a gentle tone. I pursed my lips, still fuming with anger. A sharp gaze swept over the people who were hanging their heads in shame. Finally, the focus settled on the two men who were speaking ill of me. I said, word by word, "This matter is not over yet. My father also gave me full support." Glaring fiercely at them, "This matter is not over yet." As soon as I got home, I immediately posted the news of my breakup with Charles on all my social media accounts. My mother sat beside me, holding my shoulder with a pained expression. "My dear daughter, it's just one Charles. Don't be sad. I'll introduce you to someone tall, with long legs, good looks, and abs in the future. And also, tell me who insulted you today. I'll terminate all business with their families right away." It's been like this all these years. Whenever I was bullied outside, my parents would go out of their way to seek justice for me, sparing no effort to suppress the other party. This is also why the socialites and young masters in our circle never dared to speak ill of me to my face, only gossiping behind my back. Facing my mother's angry gaze, I shook my head. "Mom, this time I don't want to ask for your help anymore. I want to handle it on my own." Dad immediately agreed. "All right. Jenny has grown up and can handle things independently. If Jenny needs any help, just let us know. Mom and Dad will always be your support." I lowered my head, unable to hold back the tears welling up in my eyes. But just as I was deeply moved, my brother Lucas rolled his eyes and said, "Sis, to be honest, someone like you should consider yourself lucky to even marry Charles. If you don't appreciate it, that's one thing. But you even want to break off the engagement. Why don't you take a look in the mirror and see how ugly you are?" He said the last sentence very quietly, but we all still heard it. He's not deaf, so why is he pretending to be something he's not? Ever since he met Crystal, his attitude toward me has completely changed. He's become exactly like Crystal. When I asked him to pour a glass of water, he said sarcastically, "Yeah, some people, spoiled by their parents because of their natural deformity, think they can boss others around as if their hands are broken, not treating others as human beings, really thinking you're the emperor." Even though I never ordered him around again, he still used my appearance to mock me. I put down my phone and rolled up my sleeves, ready to fight, but my dad beat me to it, slapping him across the face. In a cold tone, he commanded, "Apologize to your sister." I sat back down again, giving him a smug, defiant smile. Lucas was so angry he turned red, screaming hysterically, "Dad, you hit me for this ugly freak. I'm leaving, I'm running away from home." After saying that, he turned to leave without looking back. Mom had no intention of engaging with him and just said lightly, "If you leave, don't bother coming back." Lucas didn't stop walking. He just turned a corner and went back upstairs. Dad, seeing this, grew even more furious and wanted to go upstairs to teach him a lesson, but I stopped him. "Dad, forget it. I wasn't that kind-hearted to let him off," so I added, "We'll educate him later. First, help me contact the hospital. I want to have laser surgery to remove this birthmark." Actually, with medical technology becoming more advanced these days, I've also thought about getting rid of the birthmark. However, over all these years, I never really paid much attention to the birthmark. And the excuse I came up with back then, using it to test people's sincerity just to avoid surgery, now feels a bit embarrassing. As for my parents, I'm not sure if they were truly convinced by my reasoning or if they were just trying to protect my self-esteem, but they never brought up the surgery again all these years. After all, they're wealthy and influential, and with them around, no one could ever bully me. But after what happened this time, I've come to realize something. Testing true love with a birthmark is nonsense. People are superficial. Otherwise, why would Charles, who passed the birthmark test, change his mind so easily? When I mentioned I was planning to remove the birthmark, my parents were stunned, and then their eyes welled up with tears. "Daughter, you've finally come around." Mom hugged me tightly with relief. "I'll contact the hospital." Dad quickly took out his phone to make a call, afraid I might change my mind the next second. In an instant, I felt extremely embarrassed. As expected, my parents were just trying to protect my self-esteem. My dad was very efficient and contacted the most authoritative hospital in the United States for me that very evening. The flight tickets were also booked. Before boarding the plane, my mother hugged me reluctantly. "Sweetie, are you sure you don't want me to go with you? Aren't you afraid of being alone? Maybe I should still go with you." Lately, our family's company has been handling export trade, and sometimes Mom and Dad don't come home until 11 p.m. I shook my head and said, "No, I want to go by myself. When I come back looking prettier, I'll amaze you all." Dad was crying his eyes out. "Jenny, you're the one who hates pain the most. I just transferred 100 million to your bank card. Please, don't hold back on spending for my sake. After saying that, he pushed the six-star chef beside him toward me. Sweetie, since you can't get used to the food in that place, I'll have our family chef go with you to take care of you there. Okay, I was speechless. All right then. Please don't cry anymore. I'm leaving now. Mom waved. Go ahead. Dad covered his mouth and cried. Don't save money for Dad, I said. Yeah, it takes 11.5 hours to fly from Shanghai to the United States. I received a call from Charles as soon as I got off the plane. Over there. He was furious. Why aren't you answering the phone? Do you know how many times I've called you? I went to your place and you weren't there either. What exactly were you doing? I picked at my ear and asked him casually, do you care about me? The other end paused for a second, their tone tinged with a hint of awkwardness. Otherwise, you're my fiancé. Who else should I care about if not you? Also, what do you mean by posting about calling off the engagement online? I didn't even hold it against you for biting me. And you're still going to keep acting willful. Me, willful. From childhood to adulthood, aside from cursing, I've never done anything out of line. I have always been a law-abiding, good citizen. Now that I've given them a taste of their own medicine, I have to apologize to others, and I'm being ordered to apologize by my ex-fiancé. I laughed and asked him, Charles, what are you pretending to be, acting so convincingly? You almost moved yourself, didn't you? Do I need to award you the best performance prize, also? You don't actually think I'm just playing around with you, do you? That if you say a few nice words, I'll come running back to praise and protect you like before. I lashed out without mercy. You little punk, go home and carry manure. Spitting at the phone, I blocked and deleted them in one go. Then, I checked into a luxury hotel with the chef for 69,999 yuan a night. The next day, I woke up naturally and went straight to the hospital for a checkup. Because the birthmark on my face was too large and dark, it required multiple laser surgeries. To be honest, laser surgery is also quite painful, and every time after the procedure, my face swells up so much that it looks even more like a butt. I could only find some comfort in the hardship, documenting the recovery progress of my face while undergoing treatment, until half a year later. Lucas sent another sarcastic message. Sis, I told you not to break off the engagement with Charles, now look. He's with Sister Crystal. You won't even have a place to cry when you regret it. Below was an attached video. In it, Charles and Crystal stood hand in hand under the Ferris wheel, kissing passionately. I clicked my tongue in admiration and said with regret, it's a shame you're not making films. Seeing that I hadn't replied for a long time, Lucas forwarded another video. Ha ha ha, sis, you're famous. I knew it. With that nasty temper of yours, you were bound to get criticized. Look. The vicious heiress orders her friends around and resorts to violence when she's unhappy. Saying you're an ugly but invincible woman is practically a compliment. I clicked on the video in confusion, only to find it was footage of me violently attacking Charles 6 months ago. The video had been deliberately edited, with parts cut out from the beginning and end. It was also overdubbed with passionate commentary. Having money makes you so arrogant. Breaking up a young couple is one thing, but even biting someone else's boyfriend, that ugly monster must be a dog. Opening the comments section, I found everyone was cursing me out. The most upvoted comment was from someone claiming to be an insider. The video is right. Jenny, relying on her powerful father, often bullies us. Once, when I bought her water and was just 1 minute late, she yelled at me, called me a cripple and an idiot. As for the matter with Charles and Crystal, I can't say much, but these two are truly in love. Next, reply immediately. I knew that monkey but was a mistress. Only if Charles were blind would he date such an ugly creature. Exactly, our Crystal is so beautiful, and in the video, the way Charles looks at our baby is just mesmerizing. It's so sweet. I raised an eyebrow, almost amused by these mindless remarks. Charles and Crystal, the perfect couple, the loving young sweethearts, in less than a year of knowing each other. I went from being a fiancé to the other woman, Jenny. I've packed everything, let's head to the airport now. The chef uncle pulled the luggage, his face filled with excitement about returning to his home country. I rubbed my fingers together and finally decided to delete the explanatory post. Arguing, of course, is only satisfying when it's face to face. This time when I returned to the country, I didn't tell anyone, not even my parents. Just like when I first decided to go to the United States to remove my birthmark, leaving decisively. Returning just as unexpectedly, my family's villa was brightly lit, with many luxury cars parked outside. Before I even got close to the house, I could hear a noisy chatter. "Hey, Lucas, I bet your ugly sister isn't traveling. She's probably hiding somewhere crying because she's so hideous." The person speaking is the one who, at the banquet, said my face was ugly and my temper was bad. His name is Barry, and he often runs errands and buys things for me. He's also the one who was late by 1 minute and got scolded by me for being a lame-brained idiot. Who cares if she's dead or alive? A shadow of gloom flickered in Lucas's eyes. Since I was a child, my dad and mom have always favored that ugly freak, and they didn't even tell me where that ugly freak went. At that moment, a gentle voice came through. "Lucas, you don't need to be so angry. After all, you're a boy. Even if your parents favored Jenny, this family will still be yours in the end. If you don't like her," Crystal's lips parted slightly, a mix of jest and seriousness in her tone, "you can kick her out of the house in the future, not give her a single penny, and then out of sight, out of mind." Lucas's eyes lit up. "Yeah, why didn't I think of that? I'll just keep buttering up those two biased ones for now. Once the company is in my hands, how I deal with Jenny will be entirely up to my mood." As he finished speaking, he seemed to be imagining the wonderful life ahead. He raised his head and drained the red wine in his glass. I let out a cold laugh and walked a few steps into the living room. "Your parents aren't even dead yet, and you're already thinking about how to take over the company and kick your sister out of the house." Lucas's eyes darkened as he looked at me coldly and said, "Who are you? Who allowed you in?" His gaze was icy, clearly not recognizing me. Without wasting words, I stepped forward, grabbed his hair harshly, and slapped his face while cursing. "You little brat, after half a year, you've got some nerve. Huh, daring to scheme against me, even thinking of taking over the company and kicking me out of the house. Dream on, you stupid idiot. Even if the family business were given to a turtle, it wouldn't be given to a scoundrel like you." The people around, hearing my signature cursing, instantly guessed who it was. "Jenny, damn, did she get plastic surgery in the past 6 months? How did she become so good-looking? Damn, which hospital did she go to? There's no trace of surgery at all. It doesn't seem like she had surgery either. Which plastic surgery hospital could make it look so natural?" When she hit Lucas, her whole face was straining. If it really was surgery, I'd kneel and beg for the hospital's address. Unlike the fight 6 months ago, this time no one stepped in to break it up. In just 3 minutes, I had beaten Lucas until he was bruised and swollen. His pupils were dilated, yet he was still cursing under his breath. "You ugly freak, how dare you hit me? Do you believe I'll tell mom and dad and have them kick you out of the house?" The last sentence was uttered with no force at all, barely a whisper of breath. I laughed, grabbed him by the collar, and threw him over my shoulder, slamming him hard onto the ground, then informed him, "No need to tell mom and dad. I'm announcing right now, you're kicked out of the house. You've only been my brother for a few years, and you really think you're the young master of the Jackson family. A stray dog I kindly took in has turned into an ungrateful wretch. I spit on you. I tell you to get out, and you better scram right away." Lucas is not my biological brother. My parents only had me. After I was born, my father cried and insisted on getting a vasectomy, refusing to let my mother suffer anymore. One winter when I was 9, I found Lucas curled up by a trash can on my way home, nearly dead. "Quickly call mom and dad to take him to the hospital." When he opened his eyes and saw me first, he said groggily, "Am I dead?" I actually saw a fairy sister. He gently touched the birthmark on my face. "Sister, it looks like there's a flower on your face." I was overjoyed by this compliment. After my parents and the police confirmed that he was an orphan who had run away from the orphanage, I threw another tantrum and insisted that my parents adopt him. At that time, Lucas was very young, only 4 or 5 years old. He had been exposed to the cold for too long and fell seriously ill, completely forgetting the already vague memories he had from before. Neither my parents nor I ever told him that he was actually adopted. For over a decade, we have always loved him as if he were our own. Who would have thought that the pain would bring out such an ingrate? "Lucas, are you okay?" Crystal snapped back to reality and hurried over to Lucas to show her concern. Upon seeing the blood and bruises on his face, her almond-shaped eyes widened in shock, and she glared at me, saying, "Jenny, do you have any manners? How could you hit your own brother so harshly? Why are you so vicious? Let me tell you, no matter how much you've improved your appearance with plastic surgery, it can't hide the ugliness inside you." Half a year later, Crystal still only had those few lines. "It doesn't hurt me at all." Stepping forward, he took out his phone and played a video. In the video, Crystal cried to the camera, "Actually, Charles and I have liked each other for a long time. If it weren't for certain people, we might have gotten married long ago." She used her parents' influence to break off the engagement with Charles and made his life difficult. She even pressured Charles's parents, saying that if she wasn't appeased, Charles wouldn't be allowed to marry, otherwise, let Charles's family go bankrupt. Woo woo. There is a comment in the comment section below asking, "Who is bullying you? Give us the name, otherwise how can we speak up for you?" Crystal is also very smart and didn't write my full name. I can only share this much, I can't tell you the rest. But then a small account replied, "Her name is Jenny. The eldest daughter of the James group, and she loves bullying others the most." This comment portrays me as an utterly wicked, beauty-obsessed, and domineeringly handsome guy snatching, incredibly ugly woman. I looked at Crystal with a half-smile. "This account is yours, isn't it?" Crystal shuddered, yet her face still wore that innocent, pure expression. "Yes, it's me, what's the matter?" The next second, she let out a piercing scream. Before she could finish speaking, I grabbed her hair roughly, reaching for an open bottle of red wine. I smiled and said, "It's good that it's you. Every grievance has its cause, and every debt has its debtor. Today, I'll give that foul mouth of yours a good rinse, to keep you from making up rumors and spewing nonsense for no reason." I poured the entire bottle of red wine into her mouth but tightly gripped her neck to prevent her from swallowing. "Wait until she's almost suffocating, then slap her hard across the face. Don't you dare pass out. I'm not done having fun yet." After finishing a bottle of red wine in this manner, I went to the TV to cast the screen. I looked at the people in the living room who had been invited to the party. We're all in the same circle, so everyone knows that Charles and I grew up together and got engaged when we were 18. Picking up the remote, I lightly pressed the play button and smiled as I turned my gaze to Charles. But then, my fiancé and Crystal had only known each other for less than 3 months before they ended up in bed together. Cheating is one thing, but how could you have the nerve to swindle money from me to support your mistress? TSK. Every month you borrow money from me using the excuse of starting a business. In 3 months, you've borrowed 5 million, all to support your mistress. As soon as the words left my mouth, I raised my hand and slapped Crystal hard across the face again. "A resilient woman of the new era, you can't stand me ordering others to serve tea and water, yet you have no problem being a mistress and spending my money." On the 100-inch television screen, the surveillance footage I had edited was playing. It clearly recorded her indignant accusation that I was a slave owner. After playing this segment, they immediately showed photos of them checking into a hotel after I went abroad. At the end, there was evidence of Lucas's infidelity. A large portion of it was uncovered by the private investigator I hired. I had no idea until I checked, and it made me so sick I couldn't eat for 3 days. I glanced at Charles, whose face had turned deathly pale, and let out a cold laugh. "Charles, you really played a dirty trick, didn't you?" I kicked him in the crotch. "So you've fallen for someone else, huh? You could have just told me. I'd be more than happy to let you two lovebirds be together. But why are you sleeping with her while deceiving me for money?" Fortunately, during those 3 months, I was busy with company matters and didn't get too close to him. Otherwise, I might have caught some nasty disease without even knowing it. The people around were trembling with fear. Someone dared to raise their phone and approach me, saying, "I'm live streaming right now. Jenny, don't be so arrogant. I'm telling you, don't think you can act lawlessly just because of the Jackson family. It's Barry, just him left to settle the score with. Did you post those comments online? I had you run errands and called you an idiot, with that garlic bulb head of yours. Can't I even scold you? Told you to buy a bar of chocolate, damn it. I gave you $2,000 for the errand, and you ended up flirting with some girl on the way, pestering her for her WeChat. I was about to die from low blood sugar. Who else should I curse but you scumbag?" Barry isn't really part of the circle. He's a student from a poor family who worked hard to become my high school classmate. He has a father who is an alcoholic and abusive, and a stepmother who constantly wants to keep him under her thumb. Once, his father came to the school, demanding that he drop out to work and support the family. He cried so bitterly that it moved me to pity, and I helped him out that one time. He knew how to handle things too. From then on, he became my little sidekick, willing to do anything without complaint. I casually handed him all the errands that needed running, paying him at least $2,000 each time. with the farthest distance never exceeding 200 meters, all these years, by my side. He hasn't just made a fortune, his standard of living has far surpassed that of ordinary people, and what's the result? Another ungrateful wretch, you ungrateful brat, no wonder your father can't stand you, why didn't he just strangle you, you thankless wretch, when you were born, I grinned, and in the 2 seconds Barry was stunned, I grabbed a bottle and smashed it hard on his head, the scene descended into chaos. Crystal cried until she was out of breath, I'm going to sue you. I'll make sure you go to jail, kicked Barry away with 1 foot, I laughed with my hands on my hips, sue me, huh, no problem, I'm sure your parents will force you to sign a letter of forgiveness for me, my gaze swept over the 4 half-dead individuals one by one, I generously said, whatever amount you want to claim today, just name it, I can afford it, as soon as the words were spoken, the police broke through the door. I showed no fear and even stepped forward proactively. Following the police back to the station, once again, everyone was taken to the station, although there were 4 injured individuals, none of them were seriously hurt, they weren't sent directly to the hospital but were instead brought to the station to give their statements first. On the other side, the police sternly criticized Ms. Jackson, no matter how angry or upset you are, you shouldn't resort to violence. If this situation escalates, you could face detention, I nodded casually. Glanced at the 4 people opposite me, and asked, what if the other party is willing to let me hit them? The policeman was stunned. What do you mean? I smiled confidently, 1 person compensates 10 million, and you provide a letter of forgiveness. If not, we'll see each other in court. I trust my family's legal team won't let me down. The first to compromise was Barry. He touched his nose and asked me suspiciously, is everything you said true? You're really giving me 10 million? You can choose not to believe it. He gritted his teeth, thought for 2 minutes, and finally nodded in agreement. I'll sign the letter of understanding right now. The second one was Charles, whose face still looked a bit pale. He pursed his lips tightly, putting on a deeply affectionate expression. Jenny, I'm the one who wronged you. I don't want your money, but I'll still give you the letter of understanding. He hesitated for a moment, his eyes still reddening. I just want to tell you. I didn't mean to cheat. That night was just an accident. I was drunk and, enough, I couldn't be bothered to listen to his long-winded explanation and shifted my gaze to Crystal, smirking maliciously. And you, are you going to sign the letter of understanding? Crystal's face turned pale with anger. She slammed the table hard and yelled, Jenny, just because your family is rich, you think you can do whatever you want, you have no shame. The police frowned. They had already understood the entire sequence of events, from the cause to the outcome of the conflict. To be honest, it was hard for them to have any sympathy for Crystal, who was undeniably the other woman in this situation, but considering she was the victim, I ultimately didn't say anything. I gently stroked her delicate, smooth cheek and asked with a smile, what do I need a face for? This face of mine is already beautiful and pretty enough, I'm not like you. Who needs a face? So much so that it's turned into a thick skin, even a Gatling gun can't penetrate your dog face. Ah, Crystal went crazy, she screamed and lunged at me. Jenny, I'm going to tear your foul mouth apart. Have you eaten shit? Why is your speech so foul? Where is your upbringing? Where the hell are the high society manners you learned? You're just a fucking idiot. I took a step back and laughed at the sight of her flailing around on the ground. You look like a turtle spirit. At that, she became even more hysterical, even more frantic, insisting on struggling to lunge forward to hit me, during which she also scratched a police officer's face, a female police officer. Unable to tolerate it any longer, firmly grabbed her by the collar, pinned her against the wall, and angrily scolded in a low voice, if you have any grievances, tell us, and we will help you handle it. If you don't want to sign the letter of understanding, you can also sue her, but don't go crazy here, otherwise, it will all be treated as obstructing police officers in the execution of their duties and assaulting a police officer. Crystal's face turned pale with fright, then gradually calmed down. I spoke up again, looking at the officer who had been scratched. Ouch, that looks pretty bad. You'll need a rabies shot, right? Crystal gasped, unable to catch her breath, and abruptly stood up again. The officer glared at me sharply and said, you should say less too. I pinched my index finger and thumb together and made a zipping motion in front of my lips to show I understood. This time, the first to arrive weren't my parents, it was Crystal's parents. After I mentioned that I could offer 10 million in compensation, Mrs. Song nudged Crystal's arm. This is 10 million we're talking about. if it weren't for you, our Smith family wouldn't be targeted. Now the family business is on the verge of collapse, about to go bankrupt any moment. We must have this 10 million. Isn't it just signing a letter of understanding? Sign it." Crystal glared at me fiercely and said, "I won't sign. I insist on making her go to jail." I really admire her stubbornness and pride. "Very well, I'll add another 20 million. Will you sign for 30 million? This time, Crystal fell silent. I smiled and tossed the pen over. "Sign it." After everything was settled, my parents rushed over from another province. As soon as they arrived at the police station, they saw me at first glance. My mother hugged me excitedly. "How did my precious daughter become so beautiful? Let me take a good look. Is this really my baby girl?" Dad's eyes welled up with tears again. "It's been half a year since we last saw you. Every time we wanted to visit, you refused. Do you have any idea how much your mom and I miss you?" Dad looked me up and down before tearfully pulling both mom and me into a hug. "You've lost weight. My daughter has lost weight." I pouted playfully. "No way. I've actually gained 5 pounds since before I went abroad. It's better for our precious daughter to be a bit chubby. What would you like to eat?" "How about mom and dad take you out for a big meal tonight?" Dad added, "or I can have someone deliver the ingredients, and we can eat at home. I'll cook myself." Mom and dad fussed over me as if no one else was around. Lucas, who had been listless and disoriented ever since learning he wasn't the biological child of the Jackson family, finally perked up a little and cautiously called out, "Dad, Mom." Dad looked at him, his gaze instantly darkening. "I'm not your dad. Don't call me that. I'm not your mom either. You were picked up by my precious daughter from beside the trash can." Mom had sentenced Lucas to death. "We saw what happened at home today on the surveillance footage. We never expected this. We've treated you so well, and not only are you ungrateful, but you even tried to kick my precious daughter out of the house. Let me tell you, if it weren't for Jenny begging us, we wouldn't have adopted you in the first place. We were even planning to give you 10% of the shares after you graduated from college." Mom sneered. "Now, I don't think that's necessary anymore. You don't need to come back to the Jackson family. Since you're 18 now, our guardianship ends here. Get out of my sight today." Lucas was stunned on the spot, muttering to himself, "I'm really not their biological child. I was picked up. The surveillance. I remember I clearly turned it off." "You don't actually think such a big villa only has the few obvious surveillance cameras, do you?" I crossed my arms. "In the living room alone, there are 5 hidden cameras, covering every angle without any blind spots, recording everything you said about kicking me out of the house. We all genuinely loved this younger brother, my parents and I, but why on earth did he turn out this way? Is it just because he felt our parents were biased?" "Lucas, from childhood to adulthood, haven't my parents and I given you enough? During your college entrance exams, you were so anxious you often couldn't sleep. To give you a sense of security, our parents gave you 2 villas and a 30 million yuan racing car, just to help you relax and be happy. I really don't understand. Where did you get the idea that our parents are biased?" Lucas stared blankly at Crystal and said, "It was her. She said my parents never loved me." "Any proof?" Lucas fell silent, unable to answer. I rolled my eyes. "Then you deserve to be kicked out today." Mom and Dad also shook their heads and sighed, hesitating to speak. I know they are also very sad about this matter, so I stood between my parents, wrapping an arm around each of them. "Mom, Dad, let's go home. I brought you lots of gifts," Mom said with relief. "My dear, you're so thoughtful. I love you more and more." Dad just smiled. "I'm growing to love you more and more too, my dear daughter. But your status still can't compare to your mom's," Mom coquettishly retorted. "You're so annoying, talking like that after all these years of marriage." Once I got home, I didn't just sit idle. They swallowed 40 million of my money just like that, and I really can't accept letting them get away with it. First, post every detail of the incident online and attach evidence one by one, then, record Barry's defamatory comments about me and save the video of Crystal's nonsense. With a lawyer's letter, sue them all in court for the crime of spreading false information and defamation. Due to the widespread circulation of the video, the comments and likes reached hundreds of thousands. Crystal and Barry are facing a punishment of more than 3 years and up to 7 years in prison. Now, they've been calling me one after another, saying they want to return the money and begging me to let them off. Listening to the pleas on the other end of the line, I admired my freshly done manicure. "Sorry, MS, song, but the one thing I've never lacked in my life is money. You'd better just serve your time." Hopefully, by the time you get out, your family will have left you some of that money, ha ha ha. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly. Crystal and Barry have been completely dealt with. As for Lucas, he has already been kicked out of the house and is hiding somewhere. I can't be bothered to care about him. Next, it's Charles's turn. My methods were extremely ruthless. I directly collaborated with other companies to continuously suppress the Smith Corporation and even poached all their core employees with high salaries. Once the Smith family's company went bankrupt, I acquired it for an ultra-low price of less than 10 million. Then, I rebranded it under the James Corporation name. Charles went crazy and caused a scene at my company. Jenny, come out here. How could you be so cruel to me after all the years we've been together since childhood? If you don't come out, I'll kill myself right in front of your company and let everyone know you're a murderer. He was holding a bucket of gasoline and a lighter, shouting at the top of his lungs. I yawned and leisurely walked downstairs. Charles, if you really dare to kill yourself today, not only will I return your company to you, but I'll also give you 100 million in startup funds. Charles froze, and I added with a smile, on the condition that you're really dead. Of course. The next second, Charles's face was filled with humiliation as he glared at me with resentment. 2 minutes later, tears welled up in his eyes, and he knelt before me, humbly clutching my high heels with his hands. Jenny, I was wrong. I shouldn't have yelled at you, and I shouldn't have cheated. Can you forgive me? I swear. I will treat you well from now on, as long as you can forgive me. I'm willing to marry into your family and serve you like a devoted servant for the rest of my life. I picked at my ear, then gently patted his face with my diamond-studded manicured hand. Sorry, but you're just not. I sneered with disgust. He looks like a social climber. I don't like him, and you're so filthy. TSK, to be honest, I don't even want these shoes anymore after you've touched them. I kicked off my high heels and took a step back to create some distance. But since you said we're childhood friends, I'll reluctantly point you in the right direction. You're so fair and delicate. I have a few wealthy older sisters who are into guys like you, of course. I smirked maliciously. There are also wealthy and leisurely uncles and grandpas, and they pay even more. If you're interested, I can help set you up with them. Charles was furious, unable to hold back a low growl. Jenny, I'll kill you. He lunged at me with all his might. But before he could even touch a corner of my clothes, he was pinned to the ground by the bodyguards. I rolled my eyes. Come on, I have a whole team of bodyguards protecting me day and night. If you want to pull a surprise attack, use your brain a little more. Tall trees catch the wind. I'm not stupid, with such a large fortune, and yet you don't know how to protect yourself. Whenever I go out for a drive, even whether the brakes are working or not is checked by professional bodyguards for me. I snorted lightly and turned back to continue working at the company, but before things had even settled down for 2 days, someone else came knocking at my door. Lucas held a thermal lunchbox, cautiously watching my expression. Sis, I waited in line for 2 hours to buy these crab roe buns from the south of the city for you. I raised my hand to stop him. No, I'm afraid you might have poisoned them. If you have something to say, just say it directly. Lucas bit his lower lip and knelt before me. Sister, I know I was wrong. It was Crystal who brainwashed me. That's why I treated you that way and said those outrageous things. I know my sister loves me the most. I really know I was wrong. Please let me come home. He cried uncontrollably, looking as if he genuinely regretted his actions. I wrinkled my nose and sneezed 10 times in a row at him, spraying him with saliva before finally stopping. After taking in the disgust and disdain in his eyes, I sighed and shook my head. Sigh, you say you know you're wrong, but after seeing me sneeze so many times, you didn't even ask if I have a cold or a fever, although, being treated like this would make anyone frown and feel disgusted. But who told me to be nitpicky? Go away. No matter how much you say, I won't agree to let you into the house. After all, there have been too many times when good intentions went unrewarded. And I've become completely disheartened. Now, I just want to enjoy my immense wealth all by myself. After having the bodyguards escort him out, I indulged in the gourmet food prepared by the top chef, overlooking the most bustling night view of Shanghai. I sighed with emotion. How lonely it is to be invincible. For a long time after that, Lucas and Charles often came to the company to cause trouble, playing the emotional card. They also tried to go live and wage a public opinion war to force me to forgive them. I really didn't want to see them, so I simply hired some thugs to keep an eye on them. This move was very effective. After being beaten a few times, they really behaved themselves. I heard from them again 5 years later. By then, they were about to be executed. The reason was that a rural woman had fished a suitcase out of the river, inside of which was a decomposing, foul-smelling corpse. After a thorough investigation by the police, it was discovered that the deceased was Crystal, who had just been released from prison. The perpetrators were Charles and Lucas. In court, they showed no remorse. Lucas angrily shouted, "If it weren't for her, I'd still be lounging in the villa, living my life as the young master of Shanghai. Chopping her into 8 pieces wouldn't be enough to satisfy my hatred." Charles coldly and viciously said, "I only regret not torturing her for a couple more days. If she hadn't seduced me, I would have married Jenny by now, and we might even have had children." I shook my head, feeling nothing but boredom. The next day, I went to Crystal's grave and burned 3 billion in spirit money for her. Crystal, you didn't get to spend this money back then, but now you can enjoy it to your heart's content. I still have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known that there were such heartless and disgusting scumbags around me. As soon as the words fell, a fierce wind began to blow all around. Faintly, it seemed I could still hear Crystal's cursing. I laughed heartily, as if mocking her overestimation of her own abilities. "All right, if you're dead, just behave yourself. After all, this time, the 30 million won't require you to serve another 5 years in prison." I gave a wicked smile, turned around, and left, continuing to enjoy my wonderful life. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I'm a fake wealthy daughter, but in fact, Mrs. Duncan gave birth to a son back then. Later, the real young master, Lucas, was recognized and brought back to the Duncan family. I went from being the eldest daughter of the Duncan family to an adopted daughter of the Duncan family. However, the real young master developed different feelings towards me. Before my engagement, Lucas drugged me and imprisoned me in his private villa. In order to get me, he didn't hesitate to fabricate scandals to ruin my reputation. While he was busy with a business marriage to save the Duncan family business, I drowned myself in the bathtub of the villa. When I opened my eyes, I was reborn back to when I was 10 years old, before the real young master had turned into a Yandere. Kathy. Up ahead is the Children's Welfare Institute donated by your father in your name. Do you want to go down and take a look? If you don't want to, we can go home and open the birthday presents. Mom, I want to go and see. Mrs. Duncan was slightly taken aback, as if she didn't expect her spoiled little princess to be so sensible today. After all, it's a birthday present from Dad. If I go and have a look, Dad will be happy too. I looked at Mrs. Duncan's still young face and tried my best to pretend to be as innocent as a 10-year-old child. At this time, I hadn't been abandoned by the Duncan family yet, nor had I suffered all the tortures. The person who ruined my whole life in the previous life was also 10 years old at this time, and he was in the Welfare Institute that Mrs. Duncan mentioned. After getting out of the car, the director of the Welfare Institute came to the gate to greet us in person. I saw Lucas standing nervously in the courtyard at a glance. He was holding a piece of candy in his hand and looking at us curiously. He wasn't the gloomy, unpredictable, violent, and cruel young Master Duncan from the previous life yet. Even though he was only 10 years old, he looked a lot like Mr. Duncan. He was just like a carbon copy of Mr. Duncan when he was young. I broke free from Mrs. Duncan's hand, lifted my princess skirt and ran towards Lucas, in front of everyone's puzzled gazes. I took his hand. Mom, he looks so much like Dad. I want him to be my elder brother. Lucas was brought back to the Duncan family. I didn't miss the suspicion in Mrs. Duncan's eyes. She would soon go to prepare for a paternity test. After all, for a child who looks so much like her husband, there is a possibility that he might be an illegitimate son. In the previous life, when Lucas was 18 years old and working on a construction site, he was discovered by his father's assistant. In the previous life, he was adopted by a couple who were in business, but little did he know that this was the beginning of his twisted personality. The wealthy merchant was a pervert with a violent tendency. His wife had long been beaten by him to the point of infertility, and the arrival of Lucas successfully shifted the target to him. Later, when he was 13 years old, seeing that his adopted son was becoming more and more good-looking, the wealthy merchant had evil intentions. While his wife was not at home, he tried to molest Lucas. In the process of resistance, Lucas stabbed the wealthy merchant to death with a knife. He didn't spare the wealthy merchant's wife, who came back either. in order to vent his anger, he brutally dismembered the two of them, considering that he was under 14 years old and the circumstances were complex. He was finally sentenced to 3 years of reform through labor in a reformatory, after Lucas was released. Without an education or a place to live, he could only look for odd jobs everywhere, and he wandered around for another 2 years like this. These were all things he told me when he imprisoned me in the previous life. He said he hated me and hated that I had taken his life. After returning to the Duncan family, when my father heard that I had brought back a boy from the Welfare Institute, he didn't take it seriously at first. It was fine to adopt a foster son as long as it could make his daughter happy, but when Mr. Duncan saw Lucas's face, he exchanged a glance with Mrs. Duncan and also became suspicious. With money, things get done efficiently. The result of the paternity test came out the next day. Lucas had a direct blood relationship with the Duncan couple, while I didn't, but unlike in the previous life, the Duncan couple concealed the fact that I wasn't of the Duncan family blood. They just publicly admitted that Lucas was their long-lost son. I was called the little lucky star by everyone, and by a stroke of luck, I had found my elder brother. From the moment Lucas was brought back by me to the moment he recognized his ancestors and returned to the clan, he was always in a daze. The 10-year-old boy, suddenly being told that he had biological parents and a younger sister, gradually showed a beautiful smile on his delicate little face. He would sweetly call me sister, hold my hand and play in the garden, catch butterflies for me, and help me comb my hair. Sister, I'm so happy now. He became more and more cheerful, while I gradually became silent. Lucas's previous name was Young. Mr. Duncan gave him the same name as in the previous life, Lucas. Every time the Duncan couple called him in this life, I would instinctively feel a tingling sensation on my scalp. Back then, they cooperated with their son to drug me. The last bit of consciousness I had before being imprisoned was Mrs. Duncan's choked voice. Lucas, after all, she is the child we have raised for more than 10 years. You, mother, you said you would compensate me. I only want her. I woke up from the nightmare again. In a society ruled by law, I can't completely get rid of Lucas, as long as he lives in this world. One day someone will find out that he is the son of the Duncan family, if it's inevitable for him to be recognized and brought back. Then I will find him myself and prevent him from developing an antisocial personality in advance. I also made other preparations. I increasingly liked to wear gray and black clothes, and after entering junior high school, I put on large glasses for my myopia. The Duncan couple doted on their son who had been lost and found again to the fullest, and gradually ignored my existence. So I hid my increasingly beautiful appearance as I grew older, became taciturn, and made myself even more invisible. During the summer vacation before entering high school, under the pretext of participating in a summer camp, I went to find my biological mother. I wasn't switched at birth with Lucas. My biological mother was a small-time actress. She was deceived by a scumbag and became his mistress. She accidentally got pregnant when she gave birth to me. Her manager lied to her that she had given birth to a stillborn baby and casually threw me into a nursery. Coincidentally, there were human traffickers disguised as cleaners who stole the baby boy and threw the name tag on me. By chance, Mrs. Duncan gave birth prematurely. When she was sent to the hospital, there were no relatives by her side, so no one paid attention to whether she gave birth to a boy or a girl. Just like that, I was brought back to the Duncan family by mistake. This is also the reason why I wasn't expelled from the Duncan family. In the previous life, before I had the chance to find my biological mother, I heard that she had committed suicide due to depression. All of her inheritance was donated to charity organizations without compensation. She was a good woman, so, if I want to break away from the Duncan family, the only one who can help me is her. I'm afraid that the things that happened in the previous life will happen again. I'm also afraid that Lucas, like me, will suddenly awaken the memories of the previous life. It wasn't difficult to find my biological mother. She is now a mid-level celebrity named Ruby. Using the status of the daughter of the Duncan family, I successfully met her. I told her about the things that happened back then one by one and took her to do a paternity test. My biological mother held me and cried for a long time. She said that in her dreams, she often heard a girl calling for help from her. So she had been doing charity work, praying for her deceased daughter. Fortunately, in this life, we recognized each other. Mom, this is the money I've saved over the past few years. There's probably about $2 million in the card. Ruby wiped away her tears and pushed back the bank card I gave her in surprise. Kathy, what's this for? Mom, this isn't the Duncan family's money. Over the years, I've self-studied finance and anonymously worked as an investment advisor for some small companies and earned some money. I want to start a company in your name, in the previous life. Before the Duncan couple recognized Lucas, they had been training me to be their heir, so while I was going to school, I also had a tutor who taught me business knowledge. When Lucas came back, I had just celebrated my 18th birthday. At that time, I was already a famous investment genius. In this life, I used the contact information in my memory to anonymously contact many potential clients. After several successful investments, the clients also let down their guard against me and paid me a high consultation fee. All the work was done through emails, so no one realized that I was just a 15-year-old child. However, the money earned from being an anonymous investment advisor was very limited, and recently someone started to investigate me. I need a trustworthy adult to be my agent, having been reborn. I know so much information about the future, it would be a pity not to do business. Ruby completely trusts me. During this vacation, with my guidance, the company was established. I contacted a small number of channels and contacts based on my memories of the previous life. For now, it's enough. Soon, the new semester of senior high school started. I said goodbye to my mother and returned to the Duncan family. It's not the time to reveal the truth yet, under my intentional and unintentional interference over the years. Although the Duncan family isn't as powerful as it was in the previous life, it still shouldn't be underestimated. In H City, it would be as easy for them to crush my mother and me as to crush an ant. I need money and power, and I also need time to grow. 6. After the school started, Lucas and I weren't assigned to the same class. In 5 years, he had grown from the cautious boy in the Welfare Institute to a tall, handsome and cheerful young master of the Duncan family. But his grades were still not as good as mine. In the key class, I became desk mates with Clark. I had a very deep impression of Clark in the previous life. He was a top student in No.1 middle school, always ranking first in the grade. After graduation, he was successfully admitted to the Aerospace University in B City. When I could still get information from the outside world in the previous life, I had read the news reports about him becoming the youngest deputy chief engineer in Huagua. The company on my biological mother's side was gradually getting on the right track. But it wasn't enough. Clark's family was a family of aerospace professionals. I planned to follow in his footsteps and enter the aerospace field. Once I became a talent key cultivated by the state, I would have an extra layer of protection. I wouldn't be like in the previous life, having my college entrance examination application tampered with by Lucas and being forced to stay at a university in H City. Hello, my name is Kathy. Please give me more guidance. Top student Clark. I pushed my glasses and greeted Clark. Yeah, so aloof. But it doesn't matter, I'm determined to stick with him. After the first class, Lucas ran to my class. Kathy, how is it? Are you getting used to the new class? Lucas sat in front of me, stroked my head, and put a large bag of snacks on my desk. It's very good, thank you, brother. I resumed my meek disguise at home. My well-behaved and sensible appearance attracted the attention of top student Clark. After all, just now I was discussing physics competition questions with him with a serious expression. That's good, I'll wait for you at the school gate after school. If anyone bullies you, come to me immediately. Okay. Over the years, I had become more and more withdrawn, embarrassing the Duncan couple many times. Since I wasn't presentable and wasn't their biological daughter, I naturally didn't receive their favor. I managed to get through the first year of senior high school without major problems, perhaps due to the mutual appreciation between top students. My relationship with Clark also became better and better, but an accident set off an alarm in my heart. The second year of senior high school was the age of youthful ignorance. Even though I applied yellow foundation every day and drew pockmarks on my face, I still received a love letter. Coincidentally, Lucas, who was passing by, saw it. He drove the boy away and ordered me in the tone of an elder brother to prohibit me from having a puppy love. That night, after just finishing an online meeting in the middle of the night, I wanted to go downstairs to get a glass of water. When I went out, I bumped into Lucas, who was all wet. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Usually, at this time, everyone in the Duncan family had already gone to bed, and it had been like this for several years. I didn't have my disguise on my face at this time. I saw him looking at my face in a daze. And that expression, it seemed familiar. I pretended to be calm and greeted him, then took the water and quickly went back to my room. My heart was beating violently, and a huge sense of panic swept over me. In this life, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan hadn't told anyone that I wasn't their biological daughter. Logically speaking, Lucas shouldn't have any inappropriate feelings towards me, his so-called fraternal twin sister. I spent a nervous night. The next day, Lucas went to school with me as usual, but during the lunch break, Lucas blocked me in the school equipment room. "Kathy, don't you have anything to explain to me?" "What? Your face?" "Why?" As he spoke, he took out some makeup remover wipes that he somehow got. He held my chin with one hand and wiped off the pockmarks on the side of my nose with the other. I was afraid that someone would pursue me, and puppy love would distract me. Also, before, Dad said that we should get in touch with the young masters and ladies of other families more. I don't want a family arranged marriage. I felt the strength of Lucas's hand pinching my chin gradually loosen. "If you don't want an arranged marriage, then there won't be one. I'm here for you, sister. But in the future, you can wear makeup if you want." To prevent some bad people from coveting my fairy-like sister, the tone in which he spoke softly was very similar to that of the crazy person in the previous life. He kept staring straight at my face, which was too much for siblings. Fortunately, the class bell saved me. Pretending to be in a hurry, I took the opportunity to break free from his restraint. When I returned to the classroom, I realized that my sweat had soaked through my school uniform. In the following days at home, I always felt that Lucas's gaze would fall on me intentionally or unintentionally. The memories of suffocation, fear, and the despair of being imprisoned came crashing back to me. I told Mrs. Duncan that I wanted to apply for competition tutoring and would go to the tutoring class to study after class in the evening. Lucas also wanted to go with me, but was stopped by Mr. Duncan after class. He also had to attend business tutoring or follow Mr. Duncan to participate in online meetings and review reports. So, with my deliberate efforts to keep off our schedules, apart from Lucas bringing me some snacks during the class breaks at school, the number of times we met alone was pitifully few. When the vacation arrived, Lucas went on a business trip to another city with Mr. Duncan. The tightly strung string in my heart finally relaxed temporarily. After half a month of tutoring, Mrs. Duncan forgot to arrange a driver for me. I took the bus to class in the morning, and sometimes Clark would give me a ride back in the evening. His home wasn't far from the Duncan family's residence. On the last day of the tutoring class, I sat on the back seat of Clark's bicycle as usual. We were discussing the difficult problem we just encountered. As we turned the corner, we were almost at the Duncan family's villa area. Clark, who was riding the bicycle, suddenly asked, "Is that your brother up ahead?" I was stunned and leaned out from behind him. Standing at the intersection was Lucas, whom I hadn't seen for a month. He looked at us expressionlessly. Clark stopped the bicycle in front of him and nodded to greet him. Before I could say goodbye to Clark after getting off the bicycle, I was grabbed by the arm by Lucas and dragged inside. Clark stopped Lucas worriedly. "What are you going to do?" "I'm pulling my own sister." "Why are you meddling?" I struggled with Lucas's hand. It was squeezing me a bit painfully. "You're hurting her. Hurting her. You care so much about my sister. Are you two having a puppy love?" Lucas released his hold on me, lifted my reddened wrist that he had squeezed, and blew on it. He looked at Clark provocatively, taking advantage of his reduced grip. I quickly pulled my hand back. "Brother, I'm not having a puppy love." Classmate Clark just gave me a ride on his way home because it was getting late, although I was afraid of him. As a brother, he couldn't do anything to me for the time being. I told Clark not to worry and let him go back. It wasn't the time to fall out with Lucas yet. I couldn't let him feel a sense of crisis. After Clark left, I obediently let him pull me to the small garden. Lucas suddenly turned around, and I couldn't stop in time and bumped into his arms. Lucas took the opportunity to hug me. "Kathy, why are you avoiding your brother?" "Brother, why would I avoid you? I'm preparing for the competition next semester. I'm just too busy." Lucas didn't respond but silently stroked my long hair. "I'm not going to have a puppy love." Clark was just worried that it wasn't safe for a girl like me to go home alone. "Brother, don't be so serious." I tried to muddle through and racked my brain to get out of this awkward situation. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mrs. Duncan's figure. "Mom." Mrs. Duncan looked over, and Lucas finally let go of me. I trotted all the way to Mrs. Duncan's side, took her arm, and went back to the villa. It was, more or less, a narrow escape. My performance in the physics competition was quite good, but unfortunately, it didn't meet the criteria for direct admission. I wasn't discouraged either. Through Clark's introduction, I had already met Mr. and Mrs. Jones. As long as there were no unexpected issues with my college entrance examination scores, I could join Mrs. Jones's research team during my freshman year of university. Over the past few years, the company on my biological mother Ruby's side had also grown to a considerable scale. When I was in my senior year of high school, it gradually shifted its focus to B-City. B-City was a city where the Duncan family's influence couldn't reach at all, and I would be safer there. In the second semester of my senior year of high school, I started living on campus. When there was only 1 month left until the college entrance examination, I took a leave of absence and returned to the Duncan family while Lucas's class was having an exam. Before that, I had already revealed my intention to the Duncan couple, which was to arrange a meeting between them and my biological mother, Mr. and Mrs. Duncan. Thank you for your cultivation and love for Kathy over the years. At that time, when I accidentally met Kathy, I thought she looked so much like me when I was young, so I privately investigated what happened back then. The result was that Kathy is really my daughter. It was my dereliction of duty as a mother that caused Kathy to be abandoned. Ruby was crying so hard that she was out of breath. With my comfort, she gradually calmed down and led the conversation to the main matter. I heard that the Duncan family has always wanted to secure the development project of Area A in the south of the city. Coincidentally, this project is currently in the hands of the Martin family, so, as a way to repay your kindness, I can transfer this project to the Duncan family for free. This set of words was discussed and agreed upon by my mother and me in advance, taking advantage of the information gap due to my memories of the previous life, before all the enterprises knew about it. I contacted the government officials in advance and used more than half of the company's profits to secure the project in Area A. In the previous life, when this project was publicly bid for, more than a dozen enterprises were already eyeing it. The Duncan family spent nearly 1 billion yuan on this project. I believe that Mr. Duncan would definitely agree to exchanging an unvalued adopted daughter for this project. Sure enough, the subsequent conversation went smoothly. They agreed to let me move my household registration out of the Duncan family and change my surname to Martin. Moreover, the Duncan couple promised to keep it a secret from Lucas for me, at least until the end of the college entrance examination. Wealth, power, and family affection. In the previous life, I was crushed by these three mountains and couldn't breathe. In this life, I carefully laid out the plan and schemed for 8 years, all just to be able to live with dignity, rather than being forced by Lucas again, taking intimate photos with him, and then being used by him to prove that I was just a slut who seduced my brother. I wouldn't be ruined in reputation again, being denounced by everyone, and getting pregnant with Lucas's child after being imprisoned. The term Yandra sounds nice, but in harsher terms, it's just mental illness. I had no one to rely on. There were no family members to call the police for me, and no friends to speak up for me, even if I was lucky enough to seek help from the police. The Duncan family would claim that I was mentally ill in the name of family, and I would be dragged back into the abyss. For Lucas in this life, I don't know if he will be as ruthless as in the previous life, but the way he looks at me is definitely not right. As soon as I came out of the college entrance examination room, I was picked up by my biological mother in her car and directly went to the airport without any delay. By the time Lucas wanted to look for me, I was already in the newly bought villa in B-City. Kathy, where have you gone? I didn't wait for you at the school gate. How did you do in the exam? Don't secretly cry. Brother will take you to have a big meal. It doesn't matter if you didn't perform well. Then you can go to H-City University with brother. Kathy, where are you? I looked at the messages on my phone and more than 20 missed calls, feeling a bit hesitant. He didn't do anything to me in this life. Was I being too cold-hearted? I hesitantly answered the call he just made. Hello, brother, Kathy. Oh no, Mom and Dad just told me that you should be called Martin Xuanrui now, right? Lucas's gnashing teeth voice came from the phone. Brother, after all, I found my biological mother. I'm not the Duncan family's biological child. Very well, just because you're not a biological child, you ran away, Lucas sneered. Then you marry me, and you can be a member of the Duncan family again, right, Kathy? I've known for a long time that you're not my biological sister. On the day the paternity test results came out 8 years ago, I overheard the conversation between Mom and Dad. You've been in the Duncan family for so many years, you should be mine. Slap, the phone dropped, my mind went blank, and my legs went weak. I knelt down and sat on the ground. Lucas was still saying something. I quickly hung up the phone and blocked all the contact information of the Duncan family. It took me a minute of deep breathing to calm down again. Damn my kind heart, you asked for it for being soft-hearted. I directly slapped myself twice. if you don't learn your lesson, you deserve it. Although I had a premonition, I still didn't expect that Lucas would still develop such feelings for me. His gloomy and paranoid tone was just like the devil in the previous life. Perhaps he was a bad seed in his bones from the very beginning, in this life. I successfully filled out the application for B-City Aerospace University, and the admission notice was also successfully sent to my new home not long after. Throughout the vacation, I tried my best to avoid going out. I cultivated the mother-daughter relationship with my mother at home and remotely handled the company's affairs by the way. In the previous few years, encouraged by me, my biological mother Ruby withdrew from the entertainment industry and focused on being a strong businesswoman. Now, the Martin Group is a rising star in B-City. When the new semester of my freshman year started, I wore a little dress carefully selected by my mother and went to report to the university in the family's luxury car. After being dressed up by my former celebrity mother, my appearance improved by several levels directly. The university campus forum exploded. In the video with the highest number of likes, it showed me getting out of the luxury car, along with the 3 bodyguards behind me. It's so funny. I originally said I would only hire 1 bodyguard, but after Mom heard that Lucas had improper thoughts about me, she hired 2 more. It feels so great to show off. Classmate Lou, I heard a familiar voice and turned my head to see Clark. Sure enough, it's you. I didn't hear from you at all during the vacation. If I hadn't seen the honor roll of our high school, I would have thought you didn't plan to take the exam here. Clark pulled his luggage and walked up to me. Because of some things at home, I came to B-City in advance. I heard about it. Are you okay? Do I look like I'm not okay? I flirtatiously flicked my chestnut curly hair. I'm now wearing light makeup, with big waves, a high-end custom-made lotus root purple dress, and carrying a Chanel bag. I'm completely different from the frumpy look I had in high school. He could still recognize me. The young man really has good eyesight. Clark scratched his head and smiled sheepishly. Just as he was about to say something more, we heard someone calling my name, Kathy. It was a voice that I couldn't be more familiar with. I turned my head to look at the man who came running, looking travel-worn. It seemed that he had been waiting for me for a long time. I quietly stepped back towards the female bodyguard beside me. Brother, why are you here? Don't call me brother. I'm not your brother. Lucas was like an enraged leopard, with his possessive desire for me undisguised in his eyes. Anyway, he was just a freshman student now, not like in the previous life when he had blood on his hands. Calm and sinister, like a poisonous snake. Brother, no matter what, you are my brother, and you can only be my brother. I'll just consider that phone call as you being mentally abnormal right after the exam. Mom and Dad don't want any scandals to spread about the Duncan family either. I said this in a voice that only the 2 of us could hear. I have many business partners in H-City, and I deliberately and subtly revealed some hints. The current Duncan family is much smaller in scale than in the previous life. I will keep causing trouble for the Duncan family. I can repay the kindness of their upbringing in other ways, but I will never let them become my potential threat. Lucas's twisted feelings for me destined that we would have to fight to the death. Seeing that I was tightly protected by the bodyguards around me, and with many curious freshman students already gathering around, Lucas had to give up pestering me for the time being and left angrily. Classmate Lou, you can call me by my name. I've changed my surname. I'm now surnamed Martin. Okay. Classmate Martin. Clark took out his phone and handed it to me. Professor Chen, that's my mother. She wants to talk to you about the new materials team. She has been wanting to contact you, but she found that she didn't have your WeChat. If it's convenient, let's add each other's contact information, and I'll push Professor Chen's WeChat to you. I nodded. That made sense. As the top student in the materials department, I definitely want to join Professor Chen's project. After scanning the QR code to add WeChat, I returned the phone to Clark. When I looked up, I found that he had a serious expression, looking like a proper top student, but his ears were so red that they seemed to be bleeding. I used to just regard him as a study partner and a goal to strive for. I'll politely decline any idea of dating. Men will only affect the speed at which I make money. If I encounter another Lucas 2.0, my life in this life will be in vain. Finally, I can enjoy my college life. In the previous life, I was forced to stay in H-City, and my major was changed from finance to design without my consent. In the early stage, I still had relative freedom. I could go out with my classmates, go shopping, and travel. But as Lucas's power in the Duncan family grew stronger and stronger, he started to control my social circle, and even my daily life, including what I ate. wore, lived in, and how I traveled. I thought he just simply disliked me, the fake wealthy daughter, until I graduated from my senior year of university. The Lawson family proposed the idea of an arranged marriage to Mr. Duncan to consolidate their cooperation. A week before the engagement banquet, Lucas, who finally learned about my engagement, rushed back from abroad. In just 3 days, he completely took over all of Mr. Duncan's power and directly sidelined Mr. Duncan. He also used ruthless means to acquire more than half of the Duncan family's shares. Then he went home and had a long talk with the Duncan couple and reached some kind of consensus. I had always been on guard against Lucas, but I didn't expect that Mrs. Duncan would personally bring me a glass of milk laced with sleeping pills. I was imprisoned in Lucas's private villa. When I woke up, I was lying in bed with him in disheveled clothes, and a camera was set up by the bedside. I was terrified and tried to escape, but I was held down and forced to swallow an aphrodisiac. The night of intimacy was the beginning of my nightmare. When he woke up the next day, he tied me to the head of the bed and left with the camera. He didn't show up for half a month. There were only me and the 2 aunts who came to take care of me in the villa. I overheard their conversation. Lucas edited the clips of me being active that night and played them in public at the engagement banquet that hadn't been cancelled yet. There were even media reporters at the scene. I became a trending topic. And what followed was a flood of abuse and contempt. The Duncan family also suffered a heavy blow, but by then, Lucas had gone crazy. He didn't care. He just wanted to completely break my wings. I could no longer go out, and I didn't dare to go out. I tried to resist and escape, but I didn't succeed. It only aroused Lucas's anger, and he treated me even more brutally, under his surveillance. I couldn't even commit suicide, after living like this for 2 years. The Duncan family finally couldn't hold on and was on the verge of collapse. The best way was to get investment from other families, so when I heard that the Duncan family's engagement banquet was being broadcast live, I finally had a chance to get rid of his surveillance. I drowned myself in the bathtub while 2 months pregnant and finally got. It had been a week since the start of the semester, and Lucas hadn't had a chance to get close to me. After my mother learned that Lucas had come, she hired 2 more bodyguards and personally picked me up and dropped me off for classes. Fortunately, a week later, Lucas was threatened by Mr. Duncan and returned to H-City. My college life finally returned to normal. In the following years, Lucas would come to B-City to look for me from time to time. Sometimes he would just watch from a distance, and sometimes he would try to rush into the circle of bodyguards but was immediately subdued and unable to move. He might not understand why I was so on guard against him, but I hoped he would never know. My life was very rich and busy. I double majored in finance and materials, and on top of that, I established a new materials company. Basically, I was constantly shuttling between the school and the company. During her free time from research, Professor Chen would always try to find out my romantic intentions and convey dating invitations from Clark for him, but I declined all of them. After graduating from my senior year of university, my new materials company had already grown to a considerable scale. By making use of the school's resources, I hired many professors as technical consultants. The most recent project was to cooperate with the government. The company also had many patents for world-leading technologies, and as the president, I naturally received attention from the state. Recently, it was getting closer and closer to the day when I drowned in the previous life. And I was becoming more and more anxious. I contacted the company in H-City, and the person in charge said that the Duncan family had already sold most of their assets. Over the past few years, the Duncan family had gradually declined. Even if the Duncan family went bankrupt, I would ensure that Mr. and Mrs. Duncan had enough to eat and wear. After all, they had raised me for more than 10 years. When I was discussing the latest scientific papers with Clark in a coffee shop, a sports car drove straight into the coffee shop. My bodyguards didn't have time to react, and Clark quickly pulled me into his arms to protect me, but my arm was still scratched by the broken glass. When everyone came to their senses in shock, the person in the driver's seat of the sports car opened the door and got out. Blood was running down the side of his face from his head, and his eyes were sinister and crazy. He looked like a desperate man in a suit. At a glance, I recognized him. It was Lucas. It was the crazy and perverted Lucas from the previous life. He had come back too. The bodyguards surrounded us protectively. Lucas stared at me intently, and his left hand kept trembling slightly. This was the signal that he was about to take action against me in the previous life. But now he couldn't get close to me. Soon the police car arrived, and Lucas was handcuffed and taken into the police car. He didn't say a word during the whole process. He was detained for 10 days. When I went to see him, he wasn't in a good state. Kathy, Lucas called me in a hoarse voice. I ignored his gaze and asked him, "Do you still remember the things in this life?" "Yes, I just have an extra set of memories. Both me's are me. I finally understand why you ran away after the college entrance examination. It turns out that we had that kind of relationship in the previous life." Does that mean that Kathy has remembered the things of the previous life since she was 10 years old? You even called me brother for 8 years. You were so cute. I clenched my fists and took a few deep breaths to regain my calm. "Lucas, why can't you just leave me alone? In this life, I didn't let you be hurt by that scumbag. You also received the best education. After you came back in this life, I've been living carefully. What else are you not satisfied with? Why do you have to torture me regardless of the consequences? I love you." "What?" Lucas rushed to the railing and stared into my eyes calmly. "I might have fallen in love with you a long time ago. From the first time we met in the previous life, you were wearing a light pink dress, looking as beautiful as a princess in a painting, and you were full of kindness towards me, a murderer. When I heard you call me brother, I was fascinated by you. Why can't your heart belong to me? You were still carrying our child at that time. How could you be so heartless as to leave me behind?" "Shut up," I directly interrupted his affectionate confession. It gave me a headache to listen to it. What kind of twisted thinking did this person have? "Lucas, in the previous life, you had personality defects and psychological abnormalities and didn't know what love was. I can temporarily understand that. But you haven't lost your values and your mind in this life, right? Do you think that a normal girl would fall in love with a pervert who imprisoned and forced her for no reason? If I were still that helpless, powerless adopted daughter of the Duncan family, would you still imprison me?" "Yes, yes, you're quite honest." I was so angry that I laughed. After figuring out his current attitude, I left without looking back. If he was released, he would definitely still pose a threat to me. I had given him a chance. If he stopped coveting me, I could ensure that the Duncan family could live safely in H City. But Lucas didn't plan to let me go. 14. Lucas was arranged to have a psychiatric examination. It was determined that he had an antisocial personality and a violent tendency. Considering that he had endangered public safety, the hospital suggested that the police send him to a mental hospital for treatment. Mr. and Mrs. Duncan quickly booked plane tickets and flew over from H City, after communicating with the police. It was confirmed that Lucas had no previous history of mental illness or violent behavior, so he could go home for treatment and recuperation. However, 3 days later, Lucas drove towards a red sports car again. The driver of that red sports car was my mother, Ruby. When I rushed to the hospital, my mother had just been wheeled out of the ICU. I cried until I was exhausted. Clark stayed with me for 2 days and 2 nights without sleeping until my mother woke up. Kathy. When I was still staring blankly at the ground, I heard a familiar voice. "Mom, you're finally awake." I was afraid of touching her wounds, so I could only cover my face and cry. "It's my fault for not dealing with Lucas completely." "Kathy, don't cry. How can this be your fault? You silly child. You are the most obedient and kind child." Even though Lucas had mental problems before, he hadn't hurt anyone, and the police couldn't do anything to him. Mom took the initiative to stage this play. Getting a minor injury in exchange for Kathy's lifetime safety is worth it. My mother told me that she had deliberately provoked Lucas in order to make this time bomb explode earlier. After this car accident, Lucas would be compulsorily sent to a mental hospital for treatment. My mother used the connections she had built up over the years to make arrangements and sent Lucas to a mental hospital in which she held shares. When Mrs. Duncan heard that her son had caused trouble again and was sent away, she fainted with a roll of her eyes. When she woke up again, she had a stroke and was paralyzed. The Duncan family in H City also went completely bankrupt. Mr. Duncan's hair turned white overnight. My mother gave them a bank card and a house. The money in the card was enough for the couple to live a comfortable old age. Clark had been pursuing me for 7 years, starting from our university days. Later, we got married. He became the chief aerospace designer, and I became a leader in the field of new materials. We lived a plain but meaningful life. Occasionally, I would think of Lucas. In the year we just got married, Clark and I went to see him. He was in a very bad state, because the memories of the two lives conflicted with each other. His mania was getting more and more serious, and he could only be firmly strapped to the bed. When he woke up, He would shout that he wanted to go out and die together with me. And then he would be given a sedative injection by the doctor and fall into a coma again. After my mother learned that Lucas wasn't cooperating with the treatment, she made arrangements with the doctors and nurses. As long as he said he wanted to hurt me again, electroconvulsive therapy, repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy, deep brain stimulation therapy, biofeedback therapy, etc., would be carried out in rotation until he became quiet. Sometimes I wondered if the Lucas in this life still had his own consciousness. I would get stuck in these thoughts. Clark asked me, "Then are you Kathy Martin in this life or Kathy in the previous life?" I said, "Of course, I'm the same person, I don't have schizophrenia." Clark smiled and explained to me, "That's right then, Lucas is both the him in the previous life and the him in this life. His essence hasn't changed. He just has an extra set of memories, but he still chose to hurt you." I suddenly saw the light. I stopped being care about Lucas. There were many other meaningful things in the world that I needed to do. I would no longer be troubled by unworthy people, and I would cherish the present and the ordinary happiness of this life. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.